Hi everyone, it's Evie Angeline here at etrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our Yakima Ridgeback bike rack here on our 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. So first off, for your Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, you kind of have limited options when it comes to bike racks. That's just because of the spare tire in the back of your vehicle. So you'll just have to pick and choose from those bike racks what's the best fit for you. So this is a hanging style bike rack, which means that it does stick out a bit further away from your spare tire, so no issues at all with that. One thing to consider though is how tall it is and if you have heavier bikes. So we'll take a look at how this bike rack works just to see if it's the right fit for you. So first off, let's see how our bike is mounted to this bike rack. So we have 1, 2, 3 mounting points. So those 2 are on the top tube. Then we have this third down here, which is our Anti-Suede cradle. Notice how much sway we have right now, which is actually kind of a significant amount. You can adjust this by adjusting where the bike is mounted and how tight you have this. But if we take it off, which is the first step for dismounting your bike, notice how much more sway we have without it. So it does make a pretty good amount of a big difference when it comes to sway. So we'll take these zip strips off. Notice how all I need to do is pinch kind of the levers on each side and just pull that off very quickly. So this is a lot easier to use compared to, let's say, the thick rubber straps that some other bike racks have. So that's nice when it comes to ease of use. We'll push these Anti-Suede cradles up. That way they're not in the way of our bike's frame. Then we lift our bike up and then bring it through the arms, and then we're ready to go on a bike ride. So with any hanging style rack, that's gonna be something you'll have to consider. The spacing between the bikes and how easy it is for you to find the right spot for your bikes with them all hanging together. We'll put these zip strips back so that we can take a closer look here at our cradles. So notice how our Yakima Ridgeback has cushion cradles right over here. We have grooves as well, and this is going to help out with your bike's frame. The zip strips themselves also have a cushion on them, as well as our Anti-Suede cradle. So you do have that cushion on the cradle itself, as well as the Anti-Suede cradle, and then they just pop right into them just like that, and that's what secures your bike's frame. Now what I also do is I like to switch around my zip strips, that way all of them have an equal amount of wear and tear. Kind of like how you rotate your tires, you can also rotate your zip strips. So now that we've seen our cradles over here, let's take a look at how this works. So then our distance apart from cradle to cradle is going to be about 5.5 inches, 5.25 inches, and this comes in a 4-bike version as well as a 5-bike version. This does have a weight capacity of 150 pounds with a single bike capacity of 40 pounds. And what that means is, let's say you have one bike that's 40 pounds and some others that are 25, perfectly fine as long as your total is not more than 150. One thing with bike racks like these is that when you do have more bikes, more length is added to the back of your vehicle. So we'll take some measurements just to see exactly how much here on our Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, measuring from the bumper, right where the bumper step is, to the end of the bike rack where our 2 bottle openers are, which is Yakima's signature edition. It sits at around, I'd like to say 44 inches of length added to the back of our vehicle. That's a fair amount of length, but you are carrying around 4 bikes. A 5-bike rack would add about 5 inches to that length as well. So whenever you back into your garage or try to park into a tight spot, that's going to be pretty much the distance that you're going to have to think about when it comes to clearance. Now another thing you can do is you can fold these arms down. To do so, you pull up on this lever at the top and you just fold those arms down. Now depending on how you have your Anti-Suede cradles, this may or may not fit. You may have to move it around a little bit. Let's put it right there. Perfect, much better. Okay, we'll take some measurements again. Measuring from our bumper, and now the furthest point is gonna be right where that mast is, it's kind of aligned with our cradles, and that sits at about 14.5 inches. So big difference compared to when the arms were up. You'll definitely want it in this position when you're not planning on taking your bikes off, but you also don't want to take your whole bike rack off. Now with it in the folded position, notice also how it does cover our backup camera, and the closest point this gets to our spare tire would be from the end of the mast or by that cradle, and we do have a clearance of about 5 inches away from the tire. So no issues with coming in contact with the vehicle, but you do cover your camera whether it's folded up or whether you have your bikes loaded. Now let's take a look at another feature of this bike rack, which is that you can tilt it away. You can only do this with the bikes off. You can keep the arms up or put them down. That's not an issue there, but to tilt it away, you pull this lever right over here and you just drop it down to tilt. It actually has a really deep tilt, but the main thing I am concerned about is the bottom of this mast right over here. So let's see if we have clearance. As we open up our door, notice how right over here it does come in contact with our bike rack, which means we can't open our door further. So this is pretty much the amount of space you'll get to reach inside of your trunk, even with our bike rack tilted away. That's just because of the height this sits above our hitch pin hole. So measuring from the center of our hitch pin hole to right where the top of that mast is, it sits at about 6 inches, and the distance away from the hitch pin hole to right where we measured is about 12.5 inches. So that will help you figure out if other bike racks work with you or your Jeep, or if you have, let's say, a smaller tire, maybe you might get better luck with fit than what we have here. All right, let's bring this back up. You just lift it up and it snaps into place. So let's talk about how this fits into our hitch right over here. So this has an 1.25 inch shank, and it has a 2-inch hitch adapter because we have a 2-inch hitch on our Jeep today. So this has kind of a safety pin or safety spring, but what's really doing most of the work is this knob right over here. So it's an anti-rattle knob. As you rotate it, it extends a wedge inside of your hitch receiver, which fits into there and creates an anti-rattle effect. You can also lock it right over here. That way you can secure your bike rack, and if you get the separate cable lock that comes with this bike rack, you can get that installed and try to get the same keys so that you only need to use one key to access the whole system. But anyways, with this tightened down as much as I can get it, notice how as I shake our bike rack, I'm very easily shaking our vehicle, showing that even though it has that adapter, you can see how it takes out most of the rattle of our bike rack because it's a secure fit between the shank and the hitch receiver. All right, so my personal thoughts about the Yakima Ridgeback bike rack is I would recommend it if you really want the quantity of bikes that this allows you to carry, because you get the 4-bike and the 5-bike version. Now, as for how close our cradles are, I personally prefer the Yakima back road because it provides a little bit more spacing between your bikes, and they're not as hard to get in contact or close to each other as it would with this one. Also, if you have alternate frame bikes like women's bikes, children's bikes, step-through bikes, you would need to get a frame adapter bar with this hanging style bike rack. Another thing that I was kind of sad about was how we could not open our door as much with it tilted away, but that really is going to be an issue with pretty much any bike rack you can get on the Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. If you do want a platform option instead, if you don't need that many bikes, I do recommend taking a look at the Kuat Sherpa. Great bike rack. It's a platform rack, a bit more compact, and it would work well with your Jeep. But for a hanging style bike rack, this still works. So this was a look at the Yakima Ridgeback hanging style bike rack here on our 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.
Here it is on our test course. We'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Next, we're at the alternating speed bumps, which we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving over uneven pavement. And finally, we have the full speed bumps, where we'll see the up and down action, which is just like driving out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway.